The Model 3 and the Model Y are Tesla's top two selling vehicles, and they are meant for two different kinds of people. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the differences between the two and help you decide which one of these is the best for you. I'll talk about space, style, and some other smaller differences, but first, let's get into the biggest difference between the Model 3 and the Model Y, which is the space. Now, obviously, when it comes to space, the Model Y has the edge, but don't take the Model 3 space for granted. As an owner of both, I'll give you my thoughts on the space differences, but first I want to share with you guys the dimensions, the pure numbers from Tesla's website on the difference in space between the Y and the 3. Now, starting on the exterior, the Model Y is only about 3 inches longer than the Model 3. The rear diffuser on the Model Y sticks out like an inch, so the Model Y is barely any longer. When it comes to the width, measuring including the mirrors, again, the Model Y is like barely an inch wider than the Model 3. But when it comes to height, this is where the Model Y sets itself apart. Not by a ton, but definitely a noticeable difference. Now, as far as ground clearance goes, neither are ideal for like off-roading, but to no surprise, the Y sits just a little bit higher than the 3. Now let's talk about the interior space, because this is why people choose the Model Y over the 3. They want to fit their kids, their dogs, their families inside the car and have the interior space to do so. I'm just going to share the whole chart with you guys here, since Tesla was nice enough to show inches this time in the Model Y in the owner's manual. As far as headroom goes, in the front and even in the rear, there's not much difference between the 3 and the Y, although, as usual so far, the Y edges out the 3 just by a little bit. But legroom, you actually get a little more in the 3 when it comes to front legroom, although the difference, again, is minimal, but the Model Y shines here. Much more rear legroom in the Model Y. So if you have people in the back a lot and want them to have leg space, the Y has a big advantage here. Now, things like shoulder room and hip room, again, about the same, very small differences. Now, cargo room here next. So if you want to take things with you, pack things in your car, go on family road trips or camping trips, this might be important to you. When it comes to the frunk, the Model Y frunk is bigger. Both the 3 and the Y don't have huge frunks, but then again, if you're coming from a gas car, any frunk space is bonus space. Now, behind second row space, this is where, with no surprise, the Model Y sets itself apart again. The Model Y with the seats folded has 71.4 cubic feet of space. And with the Model 3 seats folded, I don't know. Don't be mad at me. I'm literally going off the Tesla handbook and they don't have it. But I can probably tell you with some educated guess that with the seats folded, the Model Y has much more space than the Model 3. And lastly, the max total cargo volume with 5 passengers, like total storage space. Again, think those big trips where you're packing your people and family into the car. If that's you and you have a lot of people and things, the Model Y wins pretty big here. So for my subjective take on the space, being a Model 3 and a Model Y owner, of course the Model Y is much bigger for families, but if you're coming from a sedan, especially a gas sedan, don't forget in the Model 3 you have a little more room just generally, but also the sub-trunk and the frunk as just extra space compared to any gas sedan. And if you're a solo road tripper or even a +1 road tripper, the Model Y being a little smaller, a little lighter, makes it a little more efficient, gets a little more range. So on those solo road trips or +1 road trips, if you don't have a ton of things you need to put in your car, the Model 3 for road trips is actually better than the Model Y in those circumstances. So if your things can fit in a Model 3 and you want range and efficiency, the 3 might be your best option. But then again, of course, if you're carrying a third or a fourth human or a ton of things, or in our case, 2 extra dogs, the room in the Model Y is so much more than the Model 3 in that case. Now, when it comes to style, just up until pretty recently, the Model Y used to just be a bigger Model 3. But nowadays, the 3 and the Y have been refreshed to give them pretty unique looks and a ton of new features as well. The Model 3 that we own is the newer, refreshed version, whereas the Model Y that we own is the older version of the Model Y. The Model Y refresh just came out this year, or whenever you're watching this. It came out in early 2025. The Model 3 refresh came out in early of 2024. But my point is, if you're buying a new Model 3 or a new Model Y today, you're gonna get a unique look on either one, and that wasn't always the case. If you're getting a used older Model 3 or older Model Y, the biggest difference between them is size, because when it comes to looks, it's much harder to tell the difference. Because again, like I said, the older Model Y is kind of just literally a bigger, older Model 3. But if you're somebody who just prefers one of these new looks over the other, that's okay too. The Y and the 3 are unique nowadays. But as far as the interior style goes, there are design differences, and the new 3s and the new Ys come with their rear screen. But overall, on the interior, Tesla has always had this minimalistic look where everything is controlled from this giant main screen, and that is still the case today in both the 3 and the Y. Now when it comes to some of the more subtle differences between the 3 and the Y, I should put subtle in quotes because the first one I have is a deal breaker for some people, believe it or not, but that is the turn signal stalks. In the Model 3 here, you can see in my steering wheel, those turn signals are just buttons on the steering wheel, whereas the new Model Y actually has a turn signal stalk, just like most other cars. Now again, the old Model 3 and the old Model Y both have those turn signal stalks, and if that is something that's a deal breaker to you or a big deal, if you absolutely hate these buttons, there are third-party accessory companies making turn signal attachments for the new refreshed Model 3. So don't not get a 3 just because you want the stalk. You can get a 3 and hate the buttons and buy one of those third-party accessories. And obviously the new 3 and Y both have their unique looks, but the new 3 does not have a light bar, where the new Y has a light bar on the front and on the rear as well. And the rear light bar is interesting. It doesn't shine backwards. The light on the rear light bar shines onto the car and reflects backwards onto the road. Now the rear on the new Model 3 doesn't have any sort of light bars, but if you ask me, it still looks pretty cool. Now when it comes to the new 3 and the new Y, one of the biggest differences in the interior is the new Y has power folding rear seats. And this makes it a lot easier to store things from the trunk without having to walk around the car to fold the seats up or fold the seats down. Now the new Model 3 back seats do fold down too, but just like the old Model Y and the old Model 3, they're just buttons back here that you would push down to fold the seats, and you have to get the seats and actually bring them back up yourself. Now lastly, one of the biggest differences is the range. You mentioned earlier, but just across the board, generally with range and efficiency, the Model 3 gets a little more than the Model Y. Now the exact numbers depend on which wheels you get or which variant you get, but just because the Model 3 is a little lighter and a little smaller, it is a little more efficient and gets a little more range across the board. So if you're between a Model Y or a Model 3, I hope this video helped you out. Those are some of the biggest differences that I am aware of. If there's any that I missed or that you know of, let me know in a comment down below. And if you still can't decide between a Model Y or a Model 3, you can do what we did and just get both. But whatever you decide, we have a referral link for you down below. Get a couple months of full self-driving for free, so go ahead and check that out before you make your purchase. But as always, thank you for watching and catch you in the next one. They don't hear you, but...